So we're going to be going through the code for resizable boxes, but I did want to show you what these look like, what they do before we look at the code. So you're going to have two different boxes. The first one, the image is fully displayed, but you'll notice that it does not completely cover the container. Okay, so we've got the height and width intact, but there is a portion of the container that does not have the image in it. Also, the containers are resizable. So the one for the paragraph and our section here are completely resizable. And you can always see the entire image, but it does not always fill up the container. Okay, so that's the first box. Second box is a little bit different. The image does expand and it does fill up the container, but you don't always see the full image. Part of it gets chopped off, but it always will fill in the container. Okay, and that is the difference between the cover and contain background settings. So for background size cover, that is what we're using in box 2. That will always fill the container, but you are probably going to have portions of that image cropped. For background size contain, that keeps the integrity of the image. You're always going to be able to see the full image, but you might have a portion of your background or portion of your container that doesn't have background in it. So which one do you use? Well, it just depends on if you want the container completely filled in. If it's important to have the container completely filled in, I would use cover. Okay, if it's not important to have it completely filled in, then you can use contain. If you have a lot of text on your page, this resize feature is really nice. And you combine that with displaying the scroll. If the overflow, if you make it too small to see all the text, so you've got overflow, you make it so you can scroll. That combined with resize is actually kind of a nice feature for text. Okay, the other thing that is in here that we haven't used before is an outline with an offset. Outlines are kind of nice. That's what this little, my favorite peach puff color is doing. It's an outline. It's not included in any calculation for the width of a box. And there is a feature that lets you offset the outline. So this is offset by 5 pixels. So you can see it's 5 away from the container. Now, if I had it set to 15, it would even be further out. Okay, so that was outline. Now we're going to take a look at the actual code. So things to note here, I mean, the background color, you could see that that was black. We have sections in here. Let's take a look down here. So we have a couple sections, okay, and those kind of correspond to the 2 containers that you were looking at. Okay, so each one of those is a section. And then within the section, we have 2 classes applied. We have resizable and we have center. Okay, so resizable, resize is set to both. That's why you could kind of resize those boxes vertically and horizontally. Overflow is turned on so we can see the scroll bars, and we have a border, which probably is not the greatest color, but we'll leave it at black. We have a black background, so can't really see the border. And let's see, we also had a center class applied. With the margin set to auto, on this center class, it does center the boxes. That is how we got them to be centered. Okay, and you'll notice that both boxes have resizable and center. Now, where the boxes are a little bit different, as far as the section goes, is that the top one has an ID of contain, and the second one has an ID of cover. And those kind of correspond to what we did to get the images in there. So if you look, we've got contain and we've got cover. They're very, very similar. This is where we're getting the outline and the offset from. This is where we're getting the white color for the text. We did apply a shadow to the colors, the white color. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to see the text. I mean, even though the background is kind of dark, the text does stand out a little bit better when you put that black outline on it, especially if you have the white text. So that's why we put the shadow on it. Then we have that same Zen water image in both. The difference between these two is the background size. The first one we have contain, the second one we have cover, and you saw how those two work. And we just took a look at that. So for the first box, using contain, you'll notice down here on that paragraph that's displayed, we also have that resizable and centered. Okay, and that's pretty much all we've got going on the first box. On the second box, we are using the ID of cover. I did put a little inline style here just to put a little top margin between them. Otherwise, the boxes kind of smash up. Our two sections would kind of smash into each other. So putting a little top margin of 30 pixels gives us a little space between them. And I just did that as an inline style. And then this little paragraph here, again, resizable center. So that is why. This is in the middle, and we can resize it. Okay, and that's really about it. The styling for the actual paragraph of text itself is very similar to styling that we've been looking at. We made the background color white. We've got a height and width, got some padding so it doesn't smash up against the side. Made the color of the text blacks. We did make the text a little bit smaller, and we have a normal weight instead of bold. Okay. And I kind of took the shadow off. It was kind of inheriting the shadow from its parent, and we didn't like that. I didn't like how that looked, so I took it off. So this is kind of negating the text shadow. Without that, it was pulling in the shadow from the parent. So that kind of got rid of it. So that is pretty much resizable boxes. And I think it is useful for you to key this in just because you can kind of see the difference between images between contain and cover. And you can also kind of see how nifty that resizable feature is.